What is emotional intelligence? I think we did a little bit last week on what emotional intelligence meant. Let me quickly put the definition again, and then we'll look at what we're going to go in depth today for our discussion later. So, emotional intelligence is nothing but the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions and that of others. So, in the last session, we looked at understanding and managing our own emotions. I think if you're able to divide that, we are able to divide it into two sections. Personal, which would include managing and understanding my emotions, and social, which is social awareness, understanding and being aware of other people's emotions and managing other people's emotions and my emotions in the context of the relationship. So today we're going to be looking at the second part, which will primarily be on social awareness and relationship management. So let me begin by asking you a question, and I would encourage you all to put it up on the chat. Who is part of your social circle? Who are the people who would come in your social circle? Could you type and put it in the chat, please? School friends, yes. Family and friends, close friends, family, work, colleagues, thank you. Anyone else? Colleagues? Okay. So we have our neighbors, we have people whom we interact with on an everyday level. It could be our helper, it could be the watchman, it could be the shopkeeper. So we interact with a lot of people. And I think most of it you've already covered. So we have our friends, family, colleagues. If you're a working professional, then you would have a co-worker, you'll have a boss, you'll have a client. So we interact with a lot of people on an everyday basis. So we are looking at managing a lot of emotions when it comes to our interaction, when we see them, when we interact with them, when we look at their emotion and how it has an impact on our emotion. And that is going to be the focus today. And why is this topic so important? This topic is very important because research says that people who are high on emotional intelligence are better in terms of their work. They have high productivity levels, they make better leaders, and they have good success rates. And that's why this topic is very relevant and very important. And when we look at the qualities of a leader with high emotional intelligence, we will look at some of the qualities. And what are these? They are high on emotional awareness, which means they are aware of their emotion as well as their emotion of the people around them. They are people who are calm and composed. They are people who are calm under stress, under high stressful situation. They are able to be calm, composed, work through it. They are people who are also able to have empathy. They're able to understand what other people are going through. They're able to empathize with them, convey that to them. These are people who are very charismatic because they are able to convey that empathy. People really like them for that. They also have good communication skills. They're able to communicate their feelings, their thoughts, their ideas. They are able to be assertive. So they're very confident and they're able to communicate better. They also have good interpersonal skills. They are able to network better. They're able to solve problems. They're able to connect with a lot of people and also have good social skills. And these are also people who are very good at appreciation. Now, why are they good at appreciation? Because they themselves are very secure. So they're not looking for appreciation from other people. They are extremely appreciative of other people's work, their team members, their classmates, their friends, and they convey that appreciation to other people, and also high on motivation. And because they are high on motivation, they're also able to motivate other people. So even as I put these qualities up, look at what are the skills that you already have. And I think it's time to embrace those skills and hone those skills for you to become better at it. And what are those skills that you need to improve? It could be interpersonal skills, it could be on communication. What is it that you need to work on and improve to become better at emotional intelligence? Okay, so I'm going to put up a couple of scenarios. I think already Jane has taken us through this, but let me also quickly take us through a couple of these scenarios. And as I put up the scenario, I want you to write down what your emotion or what your reaction could be. Okay, so please put up your answers on the screen. Okay, the first one. You have put in a lot of effort for your presentation, but your professor gives you a harsh critical feedback and gives you more work. What would be your reaction? Frustration, yes, we feel frustrated, a little upset, disappointed, anxiety, yes, Sarah. Okay, so we go through a lot of emotions. We are tired because we've already put in a lot of effort, and I don't want to do some more work. So we are very tired. We have self pity. Thank you, Vijay. So we have all of these reactions, and I think most of us are able to relate to it as well. Let me also quickly put the second scenario. Okay, so your boss has ignored your emails, and when you go to meet her after a week, she's busy and shows her frustration on you. What is your reaction to this? Annoyed? In caps? What else? Angry? Yes, we feel angry. It's unjust. We feel angry because it's unjust. We feel irritated. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let me put the next one. Okay, your family member gives you a snide remark in an argument. How do you feel? What is your reaction when they make those remarks? Ready to snap back? Yes. Thank you for being honest. What else? Disappointed? Okay. Anything else? Avoid that person for a while because yes, we are angry. Yes, thank you. Try to justify. We get into an argument, we try to talk back. Yes. Okay, I'll go to the next one. Okay, your colleague is angry with the boss and comes and complains to you. Now, what is your reaction to this? Listen. Thank you. Good. Listen and try to comfort. Be understanding. Just listen and make sure we don't say anything against the boss. Listen and pacify them. Good. Okay, if the boss is the same boss as you, and so what is your reaction then? And you've been through such a situation before. Feel helpless. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, sit and complain about what they did to you. Yeah, I think I was looking for that because sometimes we join with them and we start identifying with that anger, identifying with that situation, and we start talking about that boss. Sometimes we do that. Listen and share how to tackle if we've been successful. Okay, thank you for all that. Your team members are avoiding each other after a conflict with so they're avoiding. How will you handle it? They're avoiding each other after they had a conflict, and you are the team leader. What would you do? Try to be a peacemaker. Okay. help them deal with it at their own pace, try to talk to them separately. You try to fix the issue because you're the leader, you need to work on it, right? Does that affect you? Does that have an impact on you? Analyze the situation and try to cool things down. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for all your interaction and for your reply. So I think these are situations in which all of us have probably we faced, we're able to relate to it. Now, why did I put up these scenarios is only to help us understand that sometimes our emotion is not just us, it is an extension of someone else's emotion, or we are reacting to someone's emotion. It could be people we are interacting with on a day-to-day basis. Like, for example, if the colleague is angry, we are not angry in the beginning because of listening to that person, we get into that emotion and sometimes we tend to become angry. Or because the boss is frustrated and they are showing their frustration on us, we take on that frustration. And so it's important for us to understand, what am I going through, what are they going through, and so how do I deal with their emotion, how do I navigate my emotion to be able to deal with their emotion better. That's why it's important to work on our emotional intelligence and to be very, very aware of what we are feeling, what the other person is feeling, and to deal with it better. So I'm also going to help you understand what are the factors which influence how we perceive other people. Because we're constantly working with other people, there are times when we can have a misunderstanding with them. There are times when we can get into a different misperception, and therefore it can color our perception of them, and that can have an impact on our interaction, on our relationship. So what are these factors, and what do we need to do to work on and be aware and not let these factors affect us? Okay, so I just found this a picture and I found it very interesting, and most often it happens to us, right? There is one person saying it's 4 and another person saying it's 3. So is it 3 or is it 4? What do you think? It could be a 3 or it could be a 4. It depends on which side you're standing. Okay, someone says it's 4. Yes, Helen. But if you're looking at it from the left side, it looks like a 4. But if you're on the other side, it looks like a 3. It's almost like looking at a 6 from one side and the other person is saying it as 9. So why is this difference? This is only because we are looking at it from our angle, from our perspective, and that is what is coloring what we see. So most often it is because of our perspectives that we are unable to see another person's perspective. We're not able to see eye to eye. We have different opinions, we have different values, we have different beliefs. And what happens when we have that difference, we have a lot of emotions. We are not able to have the same emotion when we agree or we are able to see eye to eye. Because of this difference, we are able to we have a lot of negative emotion, and sometimes we attribute these negative emotions to the other person. So when we have a difference of opinion, we are not able to get along with them. We don't like them, we try to avoid them. It is not because we don't like the person, we attribute or extend that emotion that we have to the other person. Sometimes it is because of our past experience. What we've gone through in terms of our interaction with that person, or what we've gone through in general, can color our perception and our opinion of other people as well. And I would like to give you an example here. This was a few years ago when I was teaching a course for adult learners. So most of them were quite old, much older to me, in fact. And in this group, there was a man who was in his late 40s. And so as I was teaching them, he would never maintain eye contact. He would not look up. He seemed a little disinterested in class. And our interactions are very minimal. If I asked something, he would respond. And it disturbed me a bit. And I wondered whether I said something wrong or whether I did something which upset him. And so I was a little concerned. Later, towards the end, when we had a one-on-one interaction in a counseling session, he opened up and he told me of an incident which happened to him in his childhood, where a teacher used to beat him. He was punished, and so much of abuse that he got from that teacher ever since that incident. I think it happened to him in a sports standard, and he said, after that, I don't like teachers. I hate them. I don't get along with teachers. I have a very negative opinion of teachers. And then I could understand why he had that reaction. Because I was in a teacher figure there. He was not able to relate. He was bringing all that past fear and all of that, and that is why he was behaving that. And once I understood, I could realize that it was not because of me, because of his past. And it was not because of anything I did, because of that person's behavior. He was reacting and behaving in such a manner. So like this, when we interact with people, sometimes they relate to us based on their past experience or whatever they've been through, and it needn't be because of us or what we are doing to them. So it's important for us to understand that that can also color their perception. Mood is another thing. When we are very sad and gloomy, everything looks very bleak, everything looks very sad. And we are cheerful, everything looks very cheerful and colorful. So mood can also be another factor. Sometimes we don't pay attention, we are busy thinking about something, or we are looking at our phones, and because of that we don't pay attention to what they're trying to say. There are gaps in our conversation and we try to fill it up with what we think they said, and that can also lead to misunderstanding and affect the relationship. Or it could be a bias or a prejudice, a stereotype that we have against a certain gender, certain groups of people, people from certain religion, people from certain parts of the country or a different country. And we try to see everything from that perspective, and sometimes that can also influence our relationship with them. Or it could be just our own need and our expectation. Like I said in the previous session, we all have needs. It could be a need for attention, a need for appreciation, a need for recognition. And when we don't get what we are looking for, we feel disappointed, we feel angry, we feel hurt. And that can also have an impact on how we perceive the other person. Or it could be a negative thinking style that we have. And I'm going to put it up and help us understand what are these unhelpful thinking patterns. And some of us, we have this so ingrained, we don't even realize that we have this. So the first one is called as catastrophizing, where we blow things out of proportion. It's something would have happened very small, and then when we come and tell the other person, or when we still sit back and think about it, this is how we tell the other person, what happened, and then we just blow it out of proportion. We make a mountain out of an ant hill. It could be just a small criticism, but we make it as if that person hates us, or they don't like us anymore. So sometimes we tend to do it quite often, and it becomes part of our personality. The other thing is labeling, where we tend to give people labels, or we have certain negative labels that we have for our own selves. Say, for example, you're going and asking for help to your friend, and this person says she can't help you. And immediately we tend to think, look at her, I helped her when she was in need, and she's not willing to help me, and she's so selfish, she's this, she's that. But probably she didn't help you because she was busy or she had a bad day. But what we tend to do is we start labeling people, and we tend to see them through these labels. The other thing is when we jump to conclusion, when we try to predict what could be the possible outcome of their behavior or our interaction. Maybe your friend didn't pick your call, and so we come to a conclusion that this friend doesn't like you. Or somebody forgot to invite you when they went out, so we come to a conclusion that they don't want to include us in their group. But we really don't take the time to understand why they did that. We don't take time to clarify, but we just come to a conclusion as to what the outcome could be. Or we tend to do mind reading. We imagine what they are thinking, and most often all of us have this. We are so worried and preoccupied about what other people think about us. What will they think? What are they thinking about me? And we assume what they think about us also. We think they don't like us, or they think we are not good enough. And so we tend to be so obsessed with their reaction, their thought, that continues to influence our behavior. We are no longer behaving based on what we think we want to do, but we are looking at a behavior which is influenced by what we think they think. And so I need to do it in order to get that recognition, to get that praise or whatever we want from them. And the other thing is filtering, where we ignore the good and only pay attention to the bad. For example, maybe you're going through a performance appraisal and your boss is giving you a lot of compliments, but then they also give you feedback, suggestions for your improvement. But what we do is we don't focus on the positive, but we only tend to focus on the negative, and we let it ruin our whole day. We sit and mull over it and let it spoil our mood. So these are some of the unhelpful thinking patterns or styles that we have. And even as this is up on the screen, look at what is your style. What is it that you have? What is it that you need to change or work on? Or it could be that people around you are having this, and so it's important to know that they are interacting with you based on that belief or that thinking style they have, and it's not about you in person. Okay, so looking at what are the components in an interaction. um, there are three components. There is a self, the other person, and the issue. Okay, so when we look at any interaction, we are there, the other person is there, and then the issue is there. Now, why is this important? This is important because when we are interacting with the other person, it's important for us to separate the self and the issue. One of the first things that we need to do is to shift from being a participant to becoming an observer. Now, the whole scenario, our interaction with our boss, interaction with our college professor, if we're able to take a step back and look at it objectively, we are able to understand why they did that, or we are able to get a better perspective. So one of the things that people say is shift from being a participant to becoming an observer. Identify the other person's emotional state. What are they going through? What are they feeling? What is their emotion? 86% of you said you're able to identify your emotion. What about identifying with other people's emotion? Are they upset? Are they sad? They are hurt because of what I said. So if you're able to identify that emotion, that will help us to modify our behavior, or it will help us to set free from our emotion as well. And the next one is to ask the right questions. This will help us to understand how and why they react, to help us know what they are thinking. When we ask them, say, for example, let's go to the first scenario. If we ask our college professor, what happened? What is it that I need to do to improve? Why is it you're giving me more work? And if you're able to get the perspective, then we're no longer angry or upset. We're able to take it in the right perspective. The other thing is to listen attentively. Now, this will solve most of the problems. And what is listening? Listening is not just hearing, but listening with our heart. Hearing is with the ears, but listening is with the heart. We're able to listen to what the other person is trying to convey. It's not just the verbal content, but where are they coming from? What are they trying to imply? And if you're able to listen to it, that will also help us clarify a lot of things. And the other thing is to be respectful of their perspective and not to be judgmental. Now, people may have different opinions. People will tell us a lot of things. Now, it is important that we separate what they say from the person. Sometimes we may not agree to what they are saying. We may not see eye to eye, but it's okay for us to have different opinions. Maybe what they're saying is not right, but that doesn't make them a bad person. You get what I'm saying? We have to separate the person from the behavior. Maybe what they're doing is bad, but that doesn't make them a bad person. So if we are able to do that, then we become less judgmental. We are able to appreciate and identify with what they are saying. And it's important for us to also empathize. As I said in the beginning, one of the qualities of a person with high emotional intelligence is empathy. And if we are able to empathize, if we are able to identify and feel with them, that will solve most of the issues that we have. I think a couple of weeks back, Lighthouse did a session on empathy. So empathy is nothing but to be in another person's shoes, to go and feel with them, to be able to identify with them in terms of their feeling. Now, even as we do this, it's important to verbalize it and convey it to them. So you're upset because this happened to you. You're angry because your boss said this to you. And when we are doing this, it's important that we don't get into the feeling, because once we do, then it's not going to be very helpful. uh, if we start becoming angry or sad or upset and we start imitating their emotion, then we cannot help them. One of the things people say in the plane is, put on your oxygen mask before you put it for your child. Especially to parents, they say that it's important that we are able to handle our emotion, to be able to handle another person's emotion. So it's important to empathize, but again, the caution is, don't get tangled in their emotion. Don't let their emotion become yours. It's important to draw that boundary. It is their emotion, it is their problem. You can help them, but you don't have to get too involved that you are also drowning with them. A couple of weeks back, I had this client who said she was being with her mother because her mother lost a couple of her close friends and family, and so she was there to help her mother. But on the other side, she was a student here in Chennai, and she's from Calcutta. So she said, ma'am, last 4 months I've been back home and I've missed a lot of my classes. And I said, no, that's not what you should be doing. You should get back to your classes. She said, no, but it'll be selfish if I do that. I'm supposed to be there for my mother. So how do you draw that line? You have to be there for your mother, you have to help, you have to support, but you should not take on your mother's sorrow and try to be there in such a way that it disrupts your work and you're not able to function better. So that is what is important. We need to help them cope, because everybody is blessed with their own way of coping. We only need to encourage them. We don't have to handicap them from doing what they can do. So we need to take a step back and allow them to get on with their lives. So this is something that we need to remember. If someone is upset and hurt, it is theirs. We need to help them, but not make it ours. So what is it that I can control? There are things that we can control and there are things that we can't control. What can I control? If you look at the inner circle, I can control my actions, my thoughts, my words, my mindset, my work ethic, my choices. Now, these are things that are in our control. Now, what is not in my control? The thoughts and opinions of others, the choices of others, policies at my workplace, my commitment, my reputation, other people's opinion of me, my productivity, and other people's action. Now, some of these things we can only influence. We cannot 100% control. We can make a suggestion, we can do something, but you can't really change. Most often people come and they say, we want counseling. I want counseling for my son or daughter or for my spouse. And most often when they say because that person is angry, I'm not able to handle. My son is not obedient and I'm not able to handle. And I keep telling them, if you want, you can send them. And if you want, you can come for counseling yourself, because we cannot do anything to change them. They need to work on it themselves. And it's important to know that I can work on myself, the other person can work on their self. We cannot do anything to change. So and then we have the circle of concern, which we cannot control or influence to some extent. The decision that we made in our past, we can't go and outdo it. The weather, government policies, and all of the other things for which we have no control. So coming back to this, I think it's important for us to understand, what are the things that are in our control? What is it that I can do about it? What are the things I can influence? Most often we end up being upset about the things that we can't control, and what we can control, we don't do anything about it. So it's time that we made that shift to sit back and look at what are the things that we can do to control, and what am I doing about it? Can I change my perspective? Can I change my emotion? I can't go and change my boss. I can't go and change the other person from reacting, but I can change myself from getting upset, getting hurt. I can let go of my emotion, and that is what is in my control. I like this quote from one of my favorite books. It says, one of our greatest freedoms is how we react to things. Now, that is what we have, how we respond to situations, how we react. And that is the freedom that we have. We can't go and change other people, but we can change how we look at things and change our perspective. So what is it that we need to do? We need to focus on the relationship. We need to be genuine and consistent. We need to be genuine in the way we convey our verbal and our non-verbal behavior. It should match with each other. It's important that we are assertive, but not aggressive. It's important that we state our boundaries, we state our expectation, we can convey what we would like, stand up for what we believe, but at the same time, not being very aggressive. And they say use I language. When people come and hurt us, instead of pointing fingers and say, you hurt me, you did this to me, it's only going to make things worse. When our family member makes a rude remark, we get into an argument and we try to justify, we try to retaliate. But instead of saying you did this and point fingers, it's important to say, I'm feeling upset and hurt. I would like you to be more kind, and state it from your perspective. Then the whole situation will get better. Be flexible. Try to transition from one emotional state to another. Don't be sitting on your gloominess, unhappiness. Try to transition from that. Do something to get over our emotion and not let it affect our work. And most important of all is to apologize. When we are in positions of leadership, it's important to go back and ask for an apology. And what stops us from apologizing is our pride, or sometimes it could be our fear. What will they think? I'm in this position, and if I go and apologize, my power will go. People will think less of me. Or it could be my pride. How can I go and apologize? And if that is what is stopping us from apologizing, it's time for us to realize and work on it. And at this point, I would like to tell us a story and remind us how powerful apology can be. So this is a story which happened in the time of Civil War in America, when Abraham Lincoln was the president of the United States. And he had a commander of the army who was Colonel Charles Scott. So there was a time when the war was going on, and Charles Scott, his wife, dies in a steam collision, a steamship collision, and she passes away. So Colonel Charles is very upset. He's filled with grief and sorrow, and he wants to go back for the funeral and to comfort his children. So he tries, taking permission from the higher ups, but everyone rejects because there is an imminent war at hand, and everybody is busy with their own things. So he continues to take his request to the higher ups, and finally it reaches Abraham Lincoln. And so he goes and asks him for permission so that he can go back for the funeral. And this is what Abraham Lincoln replies. I'll read his response in quotes. And this is how he replies. Am I to have no rest? Is there no hour or spot when or where I may escape these constant requests? Why do you follow me here with such business as this? You ought to remember that I have other duties to attend to. Heaven knows enough for one man, and I can give no thought to questions of this kind. Why do you come here to appeal to my humanity? Don't you know that we are in the midst of a war? The suffering and death press upon all of us. The works of humanity and affection which we cheerfully perform in days of peace are all trampled upon and outlawed by war. That there is no room left for them. There is but one duty now, to fight. Every family in the land is crushed with sorrow, but they must not each come to me for help. I have all the burdens I can carry. Go to the War Department. Your business belongs there. If they cannot help you, then bear your burden, as we all must, until this war is over. Everything must yield to the paramount duty of finishing the war. It may look as if what he says is fair enough. It makes sense because everywhere people are crying. He cannot give permission to this one man. And Abraham Lincoln said this. And you know what happened after that? He couldn't sleep that night. He was so upset at the way in which he reacted. He was upset because he hurt this person who was already grieving and going through sorrow. And so, that morning, early next morning, Scott hears a rap on the door. And when he opens, there stands Abraham Lincoln with, his folded hands, and he takes Scott's hand. And this is what he says. My dear Colonel, I was brute last night. I have no excuse to offer. I was weary to the last extent, but I had no right to treat a man with rudeness who has offered his life to his country, much more a man in great affliction. I've had a regretful night and now come to beg your forgiveness. Such a powerful incident where the president of the United States goes and asks for an apology to one of his colonels. And I think that is what made him great. A leader like Abraham Lincoln, not his accomplishments, not what he did, but his humility and his ability to go and ask for forgiveness. I think this is a great challenge for all of us who are in positions of power and in leadership. We can easily empathize with other people, but most of us struggle in this area of asking sorry. And if we do that, we will win over our colleagues, our friends, and people whom we work with. And so I would like to leave with this challenge for all of us. It's important for us to work on our emotions. And how do we do that? We do that by doing little things with great joy and happiness. It doesn't take much to make this world a better place. And when we start doing this, we are able to feel that emotion ourselves and also spread that emotion and joy to other people. So I'll share this video for us to watch, and then we'll wrap up the session. Okay, so bear with me as I share this video for all of us. That was just a reminder of how healed people can heal other people, and it all takes for us to work on our emotional intelligence is not big. Just to do those little things with an attitude of gratitude, and we can make this world a better place.